Oh, you know what?
Oh, yep. That's why.
Oh, there's a second button I need to hit. Monsters.
Haha.
Should we do
I
the intro again? Do you think that'll be why?
I don't know. Start it up and we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right, this is gonna be good because I can drive back for that joke about URLs, and then I was gonna say we are Ls because we're coming to you in real life. I'm Evan Abrams. That doesn't make any sense if people are only starting this on YouTube. It doesn't matter. I'm Evan Abrams. Kyle Hamrick across from me. We're gonna solve your motion design problems. Oh boy.
It makes as much sense as anything else that we say ever does.
Yeah.
I also enjoy this. I was literally sitting here with my phone on the YouTube feed so that I could see when it started, and I looked at it, and it didn't process that it hadn't started.
Yeah, that's fine. Look, technology is
Yeah.
hard, okay?
The Behance viewers just get a bonus intro.
Yeah. The true road dogs
Uh-huh.
get it over there. Thank you, Leo/Bill, for keeping us honest over here. So yes, we're dealing with text. We're going to do some textual healing. We need to talk about text. Are there any other mildly inappropriate puns we can do with that?
I don't know. We'll keep it G-rated today. We
Yeah.
made a couple little, little nudges in the description, but you can
Okay.
keep
Good.
going with that yourself.
Right.
But as I definitely didn't just say about 90 seconds ago,
Mhm.
today we're going to be talking about text animation in After Effects. And we're not talking about just the basics because we've done that before. So if you need the basics, look back at one of our earlier episodes that I probably should have had a link ready for. Maybe I'll do that in a minute.
Yeah, this isn't vanilla text. We're gonna get real esoteric over here.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about things that are just a little more advanced, like combining multiple animators or multiple selectors. We got some questions about the expression selector, so we're going to do a little bit there. And then at the end of the show, Evan and I have chosen some examples that the other person is not yet aware of, and we're going to challenge each other to recreate those on the spot. So that, and yes, to answer a question in YouTube, I know who this person is. Hello. But yes, as Evan just said, it is time to start heckling definitely right now. All heckling is welcome and encouraged.
We call it
So
engagement on the internet.
bring it on. Yep.
But yeah, so yeah, we are going to be talking about the expression selector, the forbidden selector. So that'll be
You can't tell anybody.
yeah. What you learn here, you need to take to your grave.
Mhm.
Yeah. One person.
Where else would you take it?
Oh, you could take it to heaven with you, except that
Oh, okay.
you've learned, you've eaten from the tree of knowledge, and now you are tainted and kicked out of the garden. This has also turned into what Evan remembers from Bible school. Sunday school? I don't know. You can tell how much I was paying attention. I was in it for the wafers. So let's get into the real thing. So the premise of today, we were going to challenge each other. Someone has challenged us. You've got it on your screen. I've got it on my screen.
Uh-huh.
We've got it on screens. So this is from And a Who. Hello. Tuning in over on YouTube's.
On the YouTubes.
So they put together this wonderful presentation of.
Yeah, by the way, this is the best asking of a question ever.
Yeah, this is the best way to do it. Always do it this way. Okay, so let's see. Play this thing through. So we've got these various, say, modes and methods. Maybe we should have just downloaded this and we'll play it off locally because Milanote.
Well, I did.
Okay. Kyle, we're going to cut back to your screen because it's playing pretty crunchily off of Milanote.
Okay, here. So I will play it in my fabulous little player here called Look-See. If you are on Windows and want a media player that lets you go frame by frame and is free and is otherwise very nice to use, Look-See. There you go. So here it is. I'll play it, and now it'll probably just be choppy because I'm coming through the thing to your system, but
Oh, yeah, how do you spell that? Looksee?
Yeah.
Okay, just like that.
And just in case there's any confusion, And a Who is indeed a real person because, of course, MotionDesignHotline.com is, Evan?
It's a real website for real people.
True. So there's some good questions in here and some nice examples. You can see this one right here as I kind of tick my way through it here. A variety of these have, I think a lot of these are actually less complicated than they look, and we're going to kind of break down how and why in a minute here. But these examples are great. Also, in case she's watching, I did get another suggestion from Alicia over on Instagram, but that particular one is less about text animators and more about a complex effect setup. So we might tackle that in the future.
Okay.
But okay, so looking at one of these, this might be a good one here. So what we have going on, the words are, each word is moving into place here. You can see new horizons, and then it's also fading on per character. And then also there's a little bit of the whole layer scaling here. So I think a lot of these are kind of like that, where you have, here, let's come up to this magical moments here as well. So we have this MA, these letters are fading on per character, right? And then you also have a movement per word. And then again, a little bit of overall scaling on that layer. So I think a lot of this is kind of really analyzing things and breaking them down into their kind of component pieces. And as we'll show you in a minute here, you can set up multiple animators on a single layer, and a lot of that is going to be kind of the key to making these work together.
And yeah, like it can also be really hard to unpick, right? Like how many different forces are really enacting on this thing at the same time? They're all pretty invisible. So anyway, that's but yeah, it's so good. So people are wondering this look-see, like the ability to just tab through next frame, watch it at different speeds, loop it back and forth. That's why you want a good viewing experience.
Yeah, and it is strangely hard to find. So this weird little indie free media player, I love it. So again, we're not going to cover the basics, but I just want to kind of like remind people of a concept here. The text animator in After Effects is an effector, okay? I'm going to animate the position, and I'm going to set this to minus 300, okay? I just moved all of the text characters. These are just periods here because I haven't done anything in the range selector. So they're all being affected by that change that I gave them, okay? If I gave them some other property like scale, now they're all being scaled also, okay? And the range selector then just defines which of these characters or words or lines are being affected by the things that you do to them. And as you get into advanced, you can change the way that is happening. Square is the default shape, and as you can see here, it's kind of pushing a square of that change into your characters, all right? And then you can do things like ramp. So you're starting at the default value and then ramping into the affected value. And then you can start using things like ease high and ease low to really start seeing. So what would ease high be? Well, crank it. See what it does. Oh, you're easing into that affected value. Or ease low is easing out of that affected value. Really easy to see when you have a line of dots and position.
Yeah.
It becomes way more abstract when you're doing a lot of the other stuff. But if you kind of like wrap your head around how these things work, it helps make understanding them easier.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think, should we, let's see if we can do one of those things kind of directly from what.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have this one that may help like lay some groundwork real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that we want to come up from the bottom of the screen and overshoot a little bit and then land here, okay? So there's a couple different ways that you could do that, but I think the easiest one to do and to help set up for what we're going to do, let's animate the position, and we're going to start by animating it up a little bit, okay? And then we're going to create a whole other animator. And on this one, we're going to change that position to take it off the bottom of the screen. And so now we have one animator that is pushing it from the bottom of the screen to that place that's a little too high. And then another animator that's going to push it from that that place that's a little too high to its home. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you would open these up and start. You could even just turn off that second one if you want for now. That's when you would start animating the start value. Okay. So I could set that from 0 to 100. And now it's going to come up into place. But remember, right now it's going from off the screen to its home until I turn that first one back on. Now that's from off the screen to its, to its overshoot position. So let's animate that start value from 0 to 100. And so it's going to come up into its overshoot and then move down to its home. And from here, all it is figuring out the timing on these keyframes. And you can make whoa, yikes. It's moving so fast that it's a little hard to see here. Let me offset that more. So you're going to see each character move up into place to its overshoot and then down to its home. And so a lot of what we're going to do here is kind of based on the same idea. You want to kind of think about breaking the movements down into parts, and then you can start, putting these pieces together. Do you want to take a crack at one of these first, Evan?
Yeah, okay. Let's go Evan Squeen, because I was messing around with stuff while you were talking, because I'm a very good listener. So let's break one of these things down like backwards first, right?
Yeah.
So if we start at the end, that's maybe helpful. So the one that came on per character, and then the words themselves kind of shifted over like that, right?
Yeah.
And I think, so all I've done, I've got a range selector. That range is selecting from 0 to 100, and it's being offset through the whole thing. So it's being animated with offset because we are ramping up. And that's going to allow us to have kind of a smooth operation that one thing won't have completed before the other one kind of starts going. So this is just a great way to think like, okay, if I need, it has to go per word, but I want one of the words to start moving before the word before it is finished, I probably need to be ramping, right? I probably need to be ramping. That would mean that, okay, so this is going, I would say this is going okay. Let's give it a 5 out of 10. The other thing that was happening to it is they were getting closer together. So they are moving over, but they're also getting closer together. So we are using position, but within the same animator one, we can just say, well, let's add the property of tracking, a little tracking going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do it like that. Now, I believe if we want to get the tracking working, if tracking go per thing, do I need to change that into grouping? Actually, maybe that's not even a thing. Hold on.
Sorry, I was paying attention to the chat.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I've got tracking, right?
Uh-huh.
Tracking is making all the characters move apart from each other. Is this just anchor point grouping by word? No, that's not it.
So what is it you're trying to accomplish?
I want to get the spaces between the words to get bigger. So it's not tracking amount that'll do it. It's got to be something else.
I mean, that's exactly what tracking is.
Yeah.
Between the words.
Yeah, between word, not between character.
Okay. Yeah. So that unfortunately, tracking doesn't do that. Yeah. But what you could do is create an animator for position and set it to be per word.
Yeah.
And then you can move it away and then have them move over. Like the other thing to point out here is that the start and end values aren't the only way to animate these.
Yeah.
You can absolutely animate those, but you could also animate the property that is being changed. Or under advanced, there's something called a mount, and you can animate the entire group of the thing using that amount as well.
That's what I was thinking. So I've renamed this one Getting Into Place. Mm-hmm. I'm going to rename this second one Getting Closer. So we're going to do that. I didn't think we were going to be talking that much about helping people hug and kiss each other, but I guess we are. Step 1, go to the right place. Step 2, get closer to each other. So again, like Kyle was saying, let's just offset this by say 100. I'm going to go into the advanced, make sure that we are indeed dealing with words, and the shape is going to be ramp up, so you can kind of see how this one's getting further away from that one, and we can like ease how we want that to be expressed. But for now, I think I'll just go like that, just so there's kind of a subtle thing that's going to be happening. And like you said, we can just bring that amount. If the amount goes from 100 to 0, then we are going to be.
And a lot of times I like to use a mount because, especially when you're using ramp, it's a great way to have things kind of progressively offset like that. And then if you use that to sort of set it there, and then you can have a mount to just make that no longer exist.
Yeah. So the other thing is, because amount is sort of a value change, not a like grouping change, like we should be easing those to prevent the clunkiness that could be happening. Sorry, the clunkiness. I didn't put enough extra C's. So we got the back part. Let's do the front part, which is it's got to come on per character. So we just come up here. We're going to go animate, and I believe it was like an opacity change that was going on. So this is showing up. You got to show up. You got to go get to the right place. You got to get closer. There we go. This is helpful. You know, most relationships are just showing up for each other, folks. Just try to remember that. Be less selfish. So is that for me? Yes, I'm telling me this. So again, we want them to come in gradually. Therefore, square, we're going to go ramp up. So that means that if this is going to be like that, and then we just push, we're offsetting that through the thing. So we really have to decide like how wide we really want this to be. I'm going to say maybe like 50% is probably fine. But generally that would mean if you want a little bit tighter timing with this, you need the offset to be, you know, at the place where the thing is coming through. And it's a matter of just lining these two things up so that one of them has happened probably before the other one has had a chance to resolve. So, oh, they're showing up and then they're getting into place, right? So move that over a little bit. They're showing up and then they're getting into place. So, hey, we're doing it. They show up, they get into place. If we want this to be a little bit more jaggy, maybe we, on the showing up, let's go ahead and add to this the property of scale so that maybe things are a little bit bigger.
Can we phrase everything like that from now on? What? The property of scale.
The property of scale. I am a reboot. So yeah, there we go. And then maybe we want to give them a little bit of easing. So we're like that. And then it's really just feathering these two into each other, and that'll get you where you want to go. So nice. Yeah, not too difficult. And again, still procedural. So let's see. What is this? We'll just put an end right there. So this is character and word. What if we put Evan and Kyle like that? And we'll do that. Remember, it's all by percentage, so it should behave pretty normally, right? Like that. Yeah. Now we are a part of the K-drama motion design hotline.
Nice.
I don't know why this reminds me of Korean television. Something. Anyway, hold on. I'm just going to write down Singles Inferno instead. There we go. I think that's a real show. Let me know if it isn't.
It is now.
Yeah. Kyle, someday people will let me design not just the titles for reality TV shows, but entire concepts for them that I can finally get people to play the most dangerous game. Kyle,
Singles Inferno, is that literally throwing single people into a fire?
Nah,
it's if they're not the one picked for the date, maybe.
Unfortunately, it's just a very chaste dating show, I think.
Okay. Sounds like perhaps it is actually a K reality show.
Indeed. All right, Kyle, is there one of those that you wanted to?
There is, but you know what? Can I opine for just a minute here?
Okay, sure. Do you want to do it in the two-shot?
Yeah, let's do the two-shot.
Okay.
So we were talking about this a little bit before the show, and I think it would be good to point this out. You know, you just watched Evan set this thing up, and we have a variety of these little effectors that are doing this. If you have one word, and you know what that word is, and it needs to be animated, say it's the title of your show or something, you don't necessarily need to do this. There are certainly times where this is going to be easier than chopping every character or word up into its own individual layer and animating like that. But if you need something to move in a really complex way and you don't know how to do it in the text animator, you can just, you know, chop them up into different layers and do that if the word doesn't need to change. So the whole point of this is that it is flexible. And as Evan just pointed out, like you can set this up in a percentage based way. So it will run through the whole line and move it, move each word or each character depending on the way that you've set this up. So um, I don't know.
It's our opine graphic that I was.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what you were up to.
See, it's a pine tree, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be O.
So, before I love the text animator, and I really love to do things in it. Some of you are probably aware that a couple years ago I challenged myself to make all kinds of complex stuff with one text layer and nothing else. That's a thought experiment.
Right.
I did that because I wanted to challenge myself. There are plenty of times where this might not be the right solution for something. So, but if your text needs to change, it's probably worth figuring out how to do it with this text animator.
Sure.
Long way to get there.
Right.
Okay.
Are we ready for screen time?
Yeah. Okay. So, you can come back to me here.
Okay. And I do want to answer. So Leo's saying we might be neighbors. Oh, if you've moved out into the suburbs of Ottawa, welcome. But are there any motion meetups in Ontario that I go to? So I used to host the one here in Ottawa. We had the Ottawa Motion MoGraph meetup. It was like on Mondays. We stopped doing it during the pandemic. We never really got back into it.
Mm-hmm.
There is, I think, Tomo in Toronto that you should go to if you're in the GTA or in the Greater Toronto area. Tomo is pretty cool. I know Montreal has some. Montreal has a great art scene. So it really depends on where you're at. So like Ontario is like super big. So people around in Europe, you might not be, or wherever in the world you are, you might not be aware that Ontario is huge. You can fit a Germany inside of it. So it's a big one. America too. Kansas, I think, is also quite large.
Yeah, but like a lot of places, Kansas, for example,
Yeah.
it's a big rectangle, and the entire population lives right here, and then you've got like 3% of the population that lives in the rest of it.
Okay. So yes, in the GTA, so definitely go to Tomo. Congratulations, you don't live in Ottawa. You really dodged a bullet on that one. No, not really. It's pretty chill around here, but it is it's a sleepy time town. So in case that helps people, that's why I live here. Kyle, let's pursue our dream.
Okay, we're going to. So looking at this particular one, there's a little bit of like frame weirdness, I think, just from the frame rates here. But so this is kind of falling in on itself here. And this, to me, like you could certainly try to do this with scale, but it's going to be a little tricky to get the positioning correct. And so to me, this looked like a good one to jump on because I'm going to take advantage of the per character 3D that you can do here. I'm not going to add any depth or dimension or anything like that, but just take advantage of that 3D. So you can come in here to animate and enable per character 3D. And now you get access to the 3D position and rotation and stuff like that on your characters. I'm going to go ahead and just animate this by position. And see, now I get this 3D position in my range selector. I'm going to set this to happen by word. And then let me maybe change this color here to something that you might be able to see a little better. Something I'll point out here in the text animator, Evan was in here a little bit ago. You get this grouping alignment, and this is your per unit anchor point. When you are doing it per character, let me see if, there you go. You can kind of see them. I brought them way off the bottom of the text. So this is your anchor point that each character or word or whatever, because you can change this here. This is for the whole text layer. You can change what each of their anchor points is. And so it's possible that I could do this with just scale, but I don't think you can get like a sort of that progressively changing one. So this feels like a good one to do by just animating in 3D. But just so you know, if you're trying to animate scale or position or something, when it's not working the way you want, think about where that character's anchor point is. You could be, scaling all of them on from like way off the corner, and then you get a very different sort of effect, right?
Yeah, and those things don't necessarily line up with the layers anchor point, right?
They definitely do not.
Yeah, they 100% are not the same thing.
And to further complicate this, you can use anchor point as one of the properties in a text animator that you can then change or animate. So
Yeah, yeah. You can get like
Yeah,
7 different anchor points going. It's great. It's
yeah.
good for everybody.
So I am going to push this way into like the negative z space here, and that looks pretty good. Maybe kind of keep that more affect the y a little bit here. And then, I mean, this looks pretty straightforward here. I haven't looked at the timing super close. They're honestly, they're barely overlapped. Um, you could do this with the start value, but then you're going to get each thing totally finishes and then the next one happens here. That's the way start works. So that's not quite there, but we could probably do some easing here and get pretty close, just like that. Um, not quite there. So what we're going to have to do is look at probably running this with offset instead. So let's set this to ramp, and then we'll need to set offset to -100 here, and then come up here and set this to +100, and let's see how that feels. Getting pretty close. I think from here it's mostly just going to be playing with the easing. So let's crank both of those all the way up and see what that does. That's pretty darn close. Honestly, that might be it. If I, try to match the timing precisely. And another thing to point out is while I'm currently easing the change of each character between its default and affected state, you can also be easing any of these as well. So let's go ahead and drop an ease on this. I'm going to start departing from this a little bit, but just to really change this, and I'm going to crank this super hard here, okay? Just to make a point that let's drag this out and make it longer so we can see that better. But so by easing this value as well, now that's one of the ways that you can make the last word or character really lag behind the other ones is by cranking the actual animation of the thing. And you can see this spike here. So we're going to get Pursue is going to move super fast. Yours still going to be pretty fast, and then Dreams is really going to trail behind.
Yeah.
So you've got all these different properties, and I mean, let's be honest here. A lot of times, experimentation is going to be the key to really nailing this. But you have a lot of different places that you can end up keyframing or easing things, and so that's a big part of kind of really landing on exactly what you want.
Well, I mean,
you just have to.
To call it some more properties, like you can keyframe the ease high, ease low. You can keyframe the breadth of the thing. Like it's
You could be keyframing this position change as well.
Yeah.
So like let's go ahead and do that. Let's say so from there, that's what it is, and then let's go ahead and change this to like something even bigger. So this is actually changing as we go. So it's moving towards us, but as the other ones are moving away from that thing. Let's crank that super hard too. I mean, I've spent a lot of time just playing with this, and there, like, we're creating an overshoot there. Obviously, it's kind of janky right now, and the timing needs work, but you could create kind of an overshoot by changing the property as it's being animated as well. A lot of these are just, it's like these weird puzzle pieces that fit together, and you kind of have to play with them and see what gets you there.
So Umacorn is asking, what would you need to add or change if you wanted to add anticipation? So if we harken back to our principles of animation, your squashes, your stretches, your anticipations, we basically want to like pump fake in the opposite direction, right?
Yep. So what I would probably do, without getting into the expression selector, which I think it's time for us to do, I would make a duplicate of this animator, and let's go ahead and have that happen just a little bit first. Let's say, let's make that just be like 50 or something. So then we can open up the keyframes and just offset this drop in a little bit here. And so now we're going to be starting to move towards us a little bit and then moving back. And so again, like my positions are a little wonky right now. I need to line things up, but that's the concept. Throw another animator at it, like 2 frames before, and you can whoopoo.
Perfect. And
That
remember,
sound
folks,
effect is,
pursue your dreams. Pursue your dreams.
yeah.
Pursue them.
Also, just to add one more layer, not really even appropriate here, but a thing to point out is that range selectors, you can have multiple range selectors within an animator.
Hmm.
You can have multiple animators on a layer. There are other kinds of selectors, which we're about to get to. And then each of these selectors also has this add, subtract, intersect mode. The best way to think about that is the way that you think about masks, where you can add 2 masks together, or you can make 2 masks and one of them subtracts from the other. This is
Yeah.
kind of the same concept.
Yeah. No fooling how you'll be booling. That's
There we go.
F that one in the chamber. Okay, so hopefully Andahu, hopefully that is helpful on those things. So combining the stuff, um, making sure that you're like treating it more like painting, right? You make big moves and then smaller moves and then and multiple
Yeah.
animators and stuff like that. Yeah,
And
we're kind of
ultimately, the key is just to pursue your dreams, right?
pursue your dreams. Yeah, pursue your dreams. Um, so, some people have sent in their dreams. They would like us to talk about the expression
Hmm.
selector, the forbidden selector, as
It
teased at the start
it
of this.
truly is. Yeah.
Let's go over to my screen tentatively,
Hmm. Hmm.
where let's talk a little bit about that. Let's say we just apply it. Okay, I'm going to say oops expression, and that's because when we apply the thing, it may not be totally clear what it does. Um,
I'm going to make a great comparison here. It's like when you apply one of the expression controls from the effects menu.
sure, it
It's
doesn't
there
do
to
much.
drive something, but until you put stuff into it, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. So I'm going to say I want to animate the position. I'm going to move the position of this stuff down or up or whatever, right?
Hmm.
So far so great. Okay, but we've got a range selector on there, so I'm going to go ahead and add the selector of expresión, and I'm going to delete the range selector so we're not confusing anything, right? Let's just get that out of there.
Hmm.
Look at what it's doing. Isn't that cool and good? So why is it doing this? Well, if you, it's based on characters, so we can expect each character to be doing something different.
Hmm.
There we go. And if we come down here to amount, there's like a 3-part array, and changing this number doesn't do anything, so that's cool. But the expression amount is this. So this is the expression that's telling us how this is going to do. It's, of course, obviously, Kyle, and I think we all know what this means, selector value multiplied by text index divided by text total. Duh.
Yeah, obviously.
It's obviously. So, the this is telling us that the text index. So imagine, if you will, this is number 1, this is number 2, P is number 3, R is number 4, this is number 5. So that is the indices, the index of each of the characters, right? And so then if we divide by the text total, well, we would end up with sort of a percentage now, wouldn't we? Right? We would end up with 1, 2, and so on. Like whatever, I mean, whatever the percentage is. I'm not great at math, but if I had 100 of these here, that would be a lot easier to calculate. But it is that amount all the way along, and that's why up here, very little of the positional change being applied. Down here, much of it being applied. So, all right, now Kyle, jump in at any point if this sounds wacky.
Oh, you think I'm paying attention?
Okay, sorry. Yeah. You concern yourself with the Wordle for a moment and come back. No spoilies for people who haven't done today's Wordle. So
I will give one tip though. It's not Motion Design Hotline.
that's true. Yeah. Again, snubbed from the Wordle. So I don't know how much you got to pay to get on that thing. So what we're gonna do? What if we just type in a number? Right. I think one of the easiest ways to kind of understand what's happening when it comes to expressions is
Hmm.
let's just simplify. I'm going to type in 100. Oh, okay. Well, it looks like 100% of the change that I want is being given to
Hmm.
everybody. Okay, what if I put 0? Oh, yeah, well, logically, this seems to fit that 0% of the thing. Hold on, let's just wait for this thing to refresh for us. Clunk. What's going? There we go. Clunk. So 0% of the thing is being applied. Well, then logically, if I put negative 100, okay,
Hmm.
now something is happening, right? That we know that if this number is outputting a negative 100, everybody's getting all the thing.
You're
Zero
doing negative 100% of the thing.
of yeah, exactly. So we're up when we should be down. So from this beginning, we can sort of understand that we're trying to give per character instructions to these things,
Mhm.
and how much of the instruction each one is getting is what we're going to determine based on this. So, for example, there are other things that we know about expressions like what if I put in time? What would you expect to have happen? Well, we could expect that over time, right, as we approach sort of a maximum value, we
Hmm.
just keep on all right. Oh, now we've
Yep.
hit like 100 whatevers, so we've bottomed out on this thing, right? So time is a value. Now the value is changing.
It's
So
a valuable value in this case.
yum 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 yum. So yes, so oops expression. That's what we can kind of learn from that. Let me talk you through some examples, and hopefully this will start to clarify some of what we might use this for. These are going to be
Yeah,
some.
if all of this just goes over your head, we're kind of laying some groundwork, but yeah, we're going to give you a couple of easier solutions in a minute.
Yeah. So let's go with alternate selections.
Okay.
So I have again a positional change here.
Hmm.
So let's say that we put like 100, pixels of movement going on. Now, why is it and how is it that we've got every other thing? Yum, 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 yum. They're working like teeth. Yum, yum, yum. So if that's what you wanted to do, congratulations. But in this case, here's the expression we got. And if you've seen us write if else expressions on here, the structure of it is if, and then the thing inside of the parentheses here. If this, then this, or else do this. So the things that are in the little curly braces.
Yeah,
I don't know.
curly braces.
Okay, the curly braces. Um, these are the things that we're going to do. So if
Your possible
this,
results.
yeah, yeah, if this, do this, or if not, do this. So the thing we're testing, we're going to test, we're just going to say text index modulus 2. So that means that we're going to sort of resolve each of these to be kind of even or odd. So 1 modulus 2, true.
Well,
Okay,
technically zero.
right. Sorry,
Yeah.
0. Or does it start at 0 or
It
1?
starts at zero.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So starting at 0, modulus 2. Oh, okay, we're going to give you that one. Okay, how about 1 modulus 2? Oh, okay, we're going to give that the other one. So what's really helpful about this is, well, what if I change the 2? Well, let's change the 2 to a 3. Every third one of those is going to be bumped, right? And so we just
And remember, you have that little drop down just above this value. So if you wanted to do this per word, for example, every other word or every fifth word or every 27th word.
yeah,
Um,
or by line, right? So
yep.
we got options, right? But just remember, text index is a type of object that we can reference. So, and since we're evaluating on each, we're saying, hey, you there, E, you're number 1. So 1 modulus 3. Okay, then we move on to the X. You. Okay, let's evaluate you next. And we evaluate you next, and then you, and then you, and then you. And it goes all the way through, each one being evaluated in turn for this. So that leads us to we'll say a more substantial example. We're gonna flash ahead. We're gonna move ahead to jump back.
Whoa.
Now, as Kyle was saying before, you could create something like this using a bunch of range selectors, right?
Hmm.
You could be sliding them range selectors through and producing this type of thing. But all of this is being deployed using the expression selector. Now, I'm going to kind of grow this up a little bit so that we can kind of get a sense. this is maybe more complicated. It's written in a way that's maybe more
Yeah.
complicated than it really should be. Let us dissect and simplify and help ourselves, right? So for one, this has been copy and pasted, and if you go looking up on the internet, expression selector help help help, you're going to come across various forum posts that are referencing this and then asking, how do I make this do what I want beyond just changing these values, right? The delay, the frequency, the amplitude, the decay, the speed, etc. Right? How do I get into more of the nuts and bolts of this thing? Well, hey, would you look at that? We've got another if else going on.
Hmm.
Now, what I find confusing about this is we don't actually need to call these again, right? So that's all that this is doing. This is just calling frequency and amplitude decay.
If you're going to call somebody, it should be the hotline.
Exactly. Call us, don't call them. But also, it's already been set up outside of the if, so we don't need to state them. We don't need to pull them again. So I'm going to remove that. And then we're setting up this thing named S, and it's equal this big pile of thing that we'll dive into. And then it's outputting SS. That's not necessary either, because as we talked about, we really just need to be getting that value of how much these things should be affected, right? So I'm just going to purge that, and I'm going to go ahead and purge that as well. So now it is in the same format that we remember. No errors have happened, and it's all doing the exact same thing. So it looks the same, right? The thing looks the same now. So if t, and t is looking at time minus input, in point times speed, blah, 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 this is feeding in a direction of time, a number that's going to be counting up from a certain time forward.
You might remember Evan doing that as an example just a moment ago, and you
That's
saw how time was moving the whole thing.
Yeah.
So if you can apply that across the characters,
Yeah, we're gonna
get
get
here.
we get like this thing that's moving along and saying, okay, then you, then you, then you, or really, each one of these is just saying, I'm going to be delayed from my neighbor
Yep.
by a certain amount. And if we really kind of go in here, my delay is not Tom delay. This is my delay. This is the delay times, hey, it's our buddy text index.
Uh-huh.
So 0, 1, 2. So delay. Where are you up here?
Very
Point
top. Yep.
0, 3 times 0 times 1 times 2 times 3. Bup, 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 bup.
Hmm.
So when it's reevaluated on each character, each one is a little bit further away from the current time. But the rest of this is just a decaying cosine, right? That is then being divided by math.exponential, which is causing the decay to come back down to 0. Well, I don't think it ever actually really reaches 0. It just kind of vibrates incessantly. Don't do that.
It stops enough.
It stops enough. But the big question is, how do I make this do more than I want it to do? Well, there are two places you could go to influence that. The time, which is the real driver of this, you would have to like reverse time or do something else time related to manipulate that. If you wanted to do something beyond like increasing or decreasing the frequency
Hmm.
of this thing, right, which is going to make it more wubby, right? Or if you bring the amplitude like way down, which is going to make it less bouncy. So the wubby and the bouncy being the various parts of
Yeah.
this.
Those are the accurate scientific terms.
Yeah, but maybe it'll make more sense if I just take this to a simpler version of that, right? Let's not decay it. Let's just leave it alone. Let's let it be a standing wave.
Yeah.
Nice chill. I think you've
Hmm.
probably seen this on a few Squarespace websites.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
this is so what's going on here? Again, we are evaluating a math.sine. So it's just kind of our sine function, which basically, if you multiply it by a number, it'll return a number between -1 and 1 in that sine function. So math.sine, the math.sine of what would you like to get? Well, inside here, we're going to do time, and I've multiplied it by 4, which is really just like a speed thing. So maybe I bring this down to 1, time times 1, slowly.
Too slow.
Yep, time times 8, fast. There we go. That's really ripping. So we've got that going on. And then I'm adding to this. So remember, this is making things go faster or slower. But then if I add something to that, I'm moving that, I'm displacing it ahead or behind
Mm.
in time. So that's why I've got text index and I'm dividing it by 2, but you don't have to do that, right? If I just left it like that, you can see that the indices right now we've got more waves
Hmm.
going on. So if
So
I
if you want to
were,
make it a wider wave, then this is how
yeah,
you do it.
so maybe I divide by 3 and now it's a real wide wave. I don't I don't know what
Oh, I
that
love it.
was. I don't know what that
I do.
Oh yeah, it's a real wild one. That's what I was doing. It's like, how did that slip into my brain? Okay. So we're manipulating these parts, but the reason why it becomes a wave is because of the offset that is based on the characters. And that is accessed through the text index object. We're then multiplying this whole rigmarole by 100, which is going to get us to the values that we've specified here in the
Hmm.
position here, right? If this was only multiplied by 50, we're only ever going to reach half of the
Half
thing
of
that we
whatever
did.
that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So useful to be able to do something like that, but that's hopefully explaining what all the numbers are. Text index. This is not something that After Effects will suggest that you put in
Yeah.
a lot of times. I think it's suggesting it because I've already typed it the one time.
That's one thing about the expression selector. It's a little bit of a black box because there are functions that exist in here that exist in no other expression field because they only work specifically with text.
Yeah. And like, so you would think like, okay, well maybe I'll discover them by clicking on this little arrow, and then I'm going to come on down here to text and properties, and
No,
nope.
that's for text styling,
See, that's other stuff. We're not going to find
which
it.
very useful
Yeah, which
for another show.
yeah, a whole other can of worms. But I hope this has given you something to think about so that you can go forth and do something with this and at least start getting a result out of it. And
Yeah.
once that starts to make sense, hopefully you'll see like, oh, okay, I'm able to. So this this one is selecting based on a numerical input. But Kyle, you've got one. If we jump to Kyle's screen,
I do.
which is a selector of a different type.
It's looking for specific characters.
Mm.
So I'm not gonna even attempt to explain this code, but just kind of one more alternative idea of how you could be using this. I originally adapted this from some stuff I found online, certainly from Dan Eberts. Um, but what this is doing is it's looking for particular characters that you state right here. Let's say the letter N, for example. And
Mm.
anytime it encounters that, it will do the thing that you've put down here. In this case, I'm changing the position, the rotation, and the fill color. So anytime it sees an N, it's going to do that thing. And just to add one other little wrinkle into this, keep in mind that you can have, remember how I said you can have multiple selectors on your layer. So I could be using a range selector. If I put it after the expression selector, I could decide, well, is this going to add to that? Is this going to subtract to that? Let's
Mm.
find out. So I could actually use like a range selector now to animate to and from that value, or I could animate those properties, but I could be, using using the start and end value of a range selector to animate from those affected versions of the thing the expression selector is doing. So
Mm.
there's all kinds of strange combinations that you can do inside here.
Mm.
Um, we
I,
had some folks. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think Leo is right to call out. So if you want to get really into the weeds with this stuff,
Mhm.
you basically want to start investigating JavaScript.
Yeah.
And the sort of I would say like runtime environment is different. So being in After Effects is a little bit different because we have the temporal quality of evaluating on every frame or by
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
character and stuff. So there are a few things that are a little bit different, like there's no print function, for example, right? We're not outputting the stuff. You would simply need to if you want to get that to happen, it has to be on a property that's going to put out a string, right? Like
Yeah.
there are some little caveats and things that are a little bit weird, but yeah, at the end of the day, get yourself some JavaScript stuff. JavaScript remains pretty well supported out there on the internet, so there's a
Yeah.
lot of resources that can help. Um,
So let me throw a couple things at folks. One
okay.
thing I wanted to call out is our friends over at Workbench have a series. These are from a couple years ago, actually, but there's I think 3 of these videos where Joe goes into how the expression selector actually works. So if you do want to learn more about this, I highly recommend you watching those over on the Workbench YouTube channel. If you want to take advantage of some of this stuff, but not write all this code yourself, I love this tool called Type Array. You can find it at slemmercreative.com/type array, or you can search for it. It is a little preset for After Effects that, as was called out earlier here, let me see if I can just apply it real quick. I have it on my little quick call up menu. So what it does is it uses an expression selector and uses that to give you easy control and then a little pseudo effect over here. So I highly recommend doing this. If you have some grasp of how the text animator works and you want to be able to work with it more easily, this is what I would say Type Array is, because you can still add all your own properties and do all that stuff, manipulate it, but this is just giving you a couple of easy keyframes and a delay so that lets it work a little more easily. And since this is just keyframing an influence value, you can add overshoots and stuff into this, which creates a lot of easy stuff. Mm-hmm. I personally am not a user of TextEvo, but I know a lot of folks use that as well. So I can't speak to how it works necessarily because I don't use it myself, but another good option for making some of this stuff easier.
Yeah, I don't know, type is a rich vein for people making plugins, we'll say.
Yeah.
But there, oh boy, run out of time. But there's one more, a real question from a real human in the chat. Uh-huh. How does what we've created using this stuff like math.sign work with the shape element? Now, Hicks design, I'm going to assume we're talking about like the shape of the range selector.
Oh boy, yeah.
So because they're two different selectors, you can think of them as alternative methods for selecting or giving instruction.
Yeah.
We can combine them in the same way that we would be combining any two range selectors together, or really any two selectors, right? A range with a wiggly, we can add them together as we see fit. The expression selector itself does not have that booleaning option in it. So it basically has to live at a certain place in your hierarchy of selectors. But the way the shape would interact with it would be if you are then using a range selector to sort of limit or expand what's going on in the stuff that comes before or after it in a hierarchy of the thing. They're fairly, I would say, like they don't, those two ideas don't necessarily interface with each other unless you are choosing to reveal or take away using the range selector. I hope that kind of helps with that. I think it's usually useful to think of them as very separate systems, like
that can intersect one another though. So like I'm using it. I have a range selector here that's using round, and then I've trimmed off the outer 20% of the thing. And then I also have an expression selector that's going to do this, that's going to do the alternating characters that you saw earlier. So that's what happens if the expression selector is first. Let's see what happens if we reverse that. Yeah. Interesting. So again, they're two separate things, but you can have them interface in different ways and create some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, because the default is, that the range selector is making a change about what has also happened, right? Mm-hmm. They all compound on each other. So hopefully that was helpful. Kyle, we've just been kicked over into the Adobe Live right when we get to the end of the really heady part. So maybe
Yeah,
that's
well,
for the
that's
best.
perfect because I think we're about to the part of the show where we're going to need to challenge each other to recreate these text animations.
Okay, true, true,
Um,
true.
and I think that's kind of perfect to have just pulled over on the main feed. Hello, everyone.
That's right. We just pulled over the main feed for speeding, and
Yep.
and now we're gonna go through their glove compartment for their registration. Um, anyway, Kyle, which one of us should start? Should we?
Well, here, let me throw something at you here. So
Ow.
I grabbed things mostly from some TV commercials.
Oh, okay.
Um, and I wasn't sure how this was going to flow, so I did sort of ascending difficulties so that here's one that is pretty easy. It's really just tracking, which I thought was kind of ironic here.
Oh, because the name
Um,
of the show is Tracker.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, I'm seeing this incessantly before the Star Trek series that I'm currently watching because we're now living in the era where you pay for a streaming service so that they can make you watch commercials before the thing you paid for.
So
So there's that one.
what is
But
CBS original Tracker here? I was
I
trying to
don't know.
think.
The, I think we could move to something a little more interesting. This
Okay.
Infinity one has some interesting stuff going on. Again, not too hard, but kind of combining a couple things.
Yeah.
Although, and I like this bit at the end where it fades into a different thing. However, this Walmart commercial has something that I think is really fun that touches something we haven't done yet. So let's watch that. We have this Flexin' with Graham. Um, and there's a
Mm.
different animation at the end of the spot here, which is, very common and very relevant, which is things kind of pushing up into place. Boop, boop, boop. So you could certainly do all of those on one layer, which could also be
Yeah.
a good thing to show.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if I can get flexing with Graham going here.
Okay.
Let's make that happen. Evan Screen. Let's flex with
Go!
Graham.
Engage!
Engage Graham. Graham. Buff. Buff.
Oh, and Wade's here. Yes, absolutely time for you to come and heckle. This is perhaps the best time to heckle.
You know, this is just a tip from someone who's been to a few comedy clubs. You don't need to ask permission to heckle, and in fact, usually hecklers do not ask permission. I think it's very kind to do that because it really sets the person up on stage to know they're about to enter the octagon with you.
Excuse me, would you mind if I heckle you, sir?
I have some notes I would like to bequeath upon ye. Um, okay,
We might be having an audio issue, or maybe it's just Umacorn. We'll see. Can the rest of you hear us? Let us know if you can't.
yeah, let me know, and I'll feverishly hit the various buttons.
I'm going to point out that it's flex in with Graham
Okay,
if
sorry.
you're trying to be accurate about your
Did
recreation.
you say Gran or Graham?
Graham with an M, I do believe.
Man,
Yep.
drug culture has really permeated
And
all
no
of our lives.
spaces.
Sorry, there's no spaces with
No
anything.
spaces. Yep.
Okay, well, I hope it's like that. So this will be some.
Well, looking at this again, I almost wonder if you should. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and help you out a little bit here. I
Okay.
think that you should make spaces so that you have the ability to control them by word, but
Yeah,
then just make the spaces disappear.
yeah, because you can kind of purge
Uh-huh.
out spaces with.
Yep.
Oh wait, is this all borked up? Hold on. Like, what is going on with this stuff? So we can. Let's just take away a space
Uh-huh.
like this. So this is our like that. All right, flexing with Graham. So let me see if I can get a little flex on flex over here. Flex on flex on flex. So I know rotation is something that needs to be animated. That range selector
Oh, do
really.
you? Hmm.
Well, thinking about it. So I
Okay,
think
I'll let you do your thing.
yeah, you let me do like that. Well, I don't know because I think what I was gonna have to do is we're gonna
I
be
guess I guess that would work.
right. Like we do have to rotate them.
Hmm. Not
Rotato
like that.
potato. Not like this. Ew, 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 ew. So we're gonna do index by words. We really only want to do the first word. So okay, good. Now I've limited that to be doing something. Um, but I think so. They're getting cranked like this. I know that I need to do something with the anchor point. So maybe we do. Oh wait, wait. We got to first come down to the more options. Let's group those anchor points by word, kind of like this. But they still need to be animated per character. Kyle,
So are you doing all the flexing within the text animator?
yeah, which is
Because to me, it sure looks like a path.
oh, that looks like a path to you. I guess that could be a path. No, I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do it to other ways. So what I
I
want
mean, I guess you could do rotation and like a really far offset anchor point, but that seems like the harder way to do it.
yeah, because otherwise, hold on.
And honestly, I'm frame by frame looking at this right now. The flex is completely done before the text animation comes in. So they're probably doing it with like, CC bend it or something. But
Oh, I guess it could be. Yeah. Because yeah, like it, and this is the big thing of like, well, what happens to the stuff that's not on the path, right?
uh-huh.
So we're just gonna go ahead and go into our text path options. Let's go into mask one. All right, so let's go ahead and grab our converto the thing, kind of like this, flexing with gram.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
think you should do it with a path, but I will say from frame by framing through this, I'm pretty sure because there's a little bit of distortion on the edges. I'm pretty sure they're using
oh
like bend it
yeah. So
to
you
do
can see
that.
we've got flexing with gram over here. Okay, so let's go ahead
I love it.
and so how are we gonna fix that up? There we go. So something kind of like this, I suppose. Now things are not aligning nicely because it's got to be charactery like this, and we need to like. That's true. This is feeling a little bit more janky with this, because especially because like this is not well. Did it flex up or down? You tell me. Which was the way?
So I mean, you can look at my screen if you want here. It starts slightly frowning, just barely, and then it goes up into a smile, and then it lands flat, and then the other ones come in.
Okay, right. Because
Yeah.
they might even just be totally disconnected um, things. I would
But
imagine.
that's not how we're working today.
No, we're
One
doing
layer.
we're doing it in challenge mode. That's how we're doing it. See, that's why my mind was like, well, I don't want to do it with a path because you end up with this stuff, right? You end up with this
Well,
this
you
kind
should
of
probably get rid of those other words and see if that helps
yeah.
it stick to the path better.
Well, because if they're gone, then it can be like in the middle, right? And then I don't
Yeah.
need to be borking around with this. So now it's a lot easier to flex gram,
Hmm.
as we say, whenever I want to be flexing gram. Um, and then we really just animate the path, right? So let's just come into the path, animated the path. And you said it goes little frown.
It's just barely frowning, and then it moves to a smile and then flattens out.
Okay, so let's just barely frown. Little frown.
Yeah, exactly.
Little frown. Big smile. No, wait, that's a frown. Whatever.
But okay, yeah, I reversed it, but you got it right.
Yeah, I look. I wear my frowns upside down, um, and then it'll let's even itself out. Boink.
Yeah.
Like that. So
Yep.
then we are simply going to be doing a little easing on these. So this is the one that we want to kind of hang out on, like that.
Yeah.
Flexing. So there we go. We got the flexing going on. I like it. I think, yeah. Well, bend it. I don't know, because that would bend all of the things. So that wouldn't be.
It would. So my thought here, and we might be doing this on hard mode, but I think that's good for demonstration purposes.
Yeah.
What I think might be interesting, so that you don't have to mess with this path thing with the rest of the words, is then animate the source text for with Graham, but then you can reveal them with an animator.
Yeah. Well, because if they come on as
But let's see if it pushes it over or if, because it depends on how you have it aligned to the path.
oh, you know what? They're all super tiny. That's what's that's what's gone wrong.
Oh, because we crunched the spaces.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm running flexing with
Hmm.
RAM. That's something.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, that's what you need for your computer for After Effects.
yeah. So we'll just see here. Let's flex the RAM. Really ripped that
Well,
RAM apart.
I mean, this might work fine if you get rid of those in the correct way.
Yeah.
Because some animators change the bounding box and some don't.
Yeah.
So if you get rid of them correctly, it might work fine.
This is the part of the program. This is the part of the program where we each step into the jigsaw chair. Okay, so let's see. Let's go like that. Oh, see, it's changing the bounding box, but not its orientation to the path. Is the here's your trouble right here.
Well, how do you have your path set? Up in the in the text layer, how do you have your path set?
Let's see, we got it. Path options.
Not that I can read your screen. But...
Yeah, well, it's we could try to move the first margin like this maybe.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of does it, and then these things can show up.
I mean, there you go. That problem solved.
Yeah. And how do these show up? I don't. Where's Miller?
Here. Yeah. If you want to see my screen for a second, so flexing with Graham, they just pop on and then move over.
Oh yeah. So because they're showing up and tightening, right? So they're...
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it moves pretty fast, but they pop on. You've got, looks like probably a ramp position, and then just pop, pop.
Yeah.
So I would, yeah.
So we can definitely do the pop, pop. I think that's pretty easy to do. So the range selector on this is going to... pop, pop. Now we're doing index... so this could just be based on words. So this is like way off.
Yeah.
So we'll do like that. And then pop, pop, pop up to 3. So
that's a shout out for any community fans that are watching.
Pop, pop. And so we want to bring that smoothness way down. Pop, pop. Like that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and then they just compress on each other. So,
yep, exactly. They just kind of glide over, which I think is almost exactly what you built before.
That's true. Yeah, so let's animate our position. And let's see here. So if we kind of... Yeah, that's still kind of maintaining. I'll have to bump the margin a little bit. And let's come into the range selector. Let's go in and I think ramp up was the way to go, and then we're really just going to be moving that aside. So let's get to go by word. Do 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 clunk 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 clunk. So I wonder. I'm just trying to think okay, if this starts at 0, because if I'm... Oh, I hope I have the space selected. I do, yeah, okay. Because now, yeah, I can crunchitize. Nope.
Oh, that was your H.
Yeah, oh, missed it by 1. There we go. Okay. So then we should be able to crunchitize this by just phasing the pop, pop. Like that. And now we just got to get them going at the right time, right? So, something like that. And I think there's an amount of easing required on here.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get into the advanced mode, get into those eases. That feels pretty good. Boink, boink. Okay, and I think it's like moving in the opposite direction at the same time. Because flexion's in the middle, and then it moves itself.
Yeah, yeah. So the whole thing's centered on the screen at the end, which
flexing.
The path definitely complicates this, but
gotta get my margins right first. So let's go ahead and get this. I don't think that was successful. Yeah, I guess it was. Okay, cool. Things rarely feel good when... Aha! Promised we'd turn into Crypt Keeper eventually, folks.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, something like that, I think.
Let me see. Looks pretty good.
We flexed with Graham. We did it. Oh, hey, hey, Annika, how's it going? All right. Well, we did it. So I flexed with Graham. That's what I'm bringing to the party. Kyle, I have a challenge for you.
Yeah, please do. I was doing the fresh fits one in the meantime.
Ooh. Okay, so I put mine over here. Now, I was gonna say let's do the thing from Baby Driver, but that's pretty easy stuff. All right. So the one under it though, the Web M, the first thing you're gonna see, the first thing.
Understand data like never before.
That's it. When we want to
Okay.
understand data like never before. So
Okay.
I think never mind the coming up from the lines stuff. It's the
Okay.
way these things assemble together. That's the thing that I'm
Okay.
interested in. Like if this was a paragraph of stuff, getting it to like merge together. But we see other things where it's like the text is moving vertically and horizontally, but only in straight lines and only one at a time. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah.
That's where
Okay.
my head goes. But yeah, so understanding text data like never before, and then we're on to some other stuff. This is made in some kind of web
Yeah.
application, but I liked the way it looked, so that was my
Trying to
impetus.
see if I downloaded this. I'm seeing if I can open it in my look-see so that I can frame by frame with it, but my
No,
computer isn't cooperating.
it's a nasty little web M file, so probably
Uh-huh.
not.
Yeah. No, no.
Yeah. Tisk tisk tisk. Trying to open your webums.
Okay. So I'm just kind of analyzing this so that I can see what's going on. Okay. I'm going to do 2 lines of it here.
Okay.
And let's delete this, just kind of reset things here. So let's tighten this up. And this is close enough to the, it's a little bit more of a vertical font, but okay. I'm kind of trying to look, it's not quite centered, which is sort of interesting. So I'm
I think
kind
it's
of,
I think it's animating towards being like
it
left
eventually becomes
justified.
left aligned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's
Can
make
you
it
imagine
left.
my disappointment when the show Justified had nothing to do with typography?
Yeah. Good show though.
Yeah. Pretty much all Elmore Leonard novels become good
Hmm.
shows. This is just something
Okay. So,
true about the man's writing.
all right. So this is interesting. Yeah. We're going to be doing, man, I mean, this might be one where I just have to animate each word individually.
Right.
Um, and that's okay. I don't love that. Honestly, this is probably one of those that is going to be more of a thought experiment than like a useful um, useful text animation.
Yeah, because like the word text needs to go in one direction,
I'll
the word
bring this
like
over
needs to
here.
go in a
See,
different direction, and I
uh-huh.
think data also slides. Like, is
Right.
this?
So I'm really going to need individual word control to be able to do this, I think.
Hmm.
And obviously, to do this with a single layer in After Effects where they reveal like this would be pretty doable, but pretty hard. Okay. So let's go ahead and if this is our end position, let's say that's going to finish right around here. So let's see what happens if we just start animating position here. So everything can slide, but maybe I could progressively slide things and then just make text have its own. Let's see if I can get close enough because understand and data feel like they're almost connected. Not quite, but
Yeah.
um, so let's see if I can just kind of give them all. A little bit of a slide here, not a ton.
Oh, and
I,
shout out to RB. Welcome, welcome. Also, Umacorn. I like that nice little song lyric. Nasty files. Nasty, nasty files. Oh, boy.
offset that by 100. Honestly, okay. I mean, honestly, this one kind of just needs a, let's call this final slide. And I'm just going to use the amount property for this one here. So let's see what that looks like. Okay. Let's just give that a little easing love here. So we have, all right. So we'll just kind of make everything do that. And then I will, oops, duplicate this. So let's say, let's call this separate. And let's see if we can also push these apart in, let's say, by word. And, oh, but I want to exclude that. So, okay, I'm glad that this came up. So I'm going to use this range selector so that I only affect one of the lines. I'm going to set this to index and line. And so I only affect the second line now, okay? Oh, so that needs to, oh, this should be 1, this should be 2, and now this text selector will only affect the second line. So understand has its own thing, and then text data like is being affected by this thing. And so I will add another range selector, range, into here that can then animate. Well, here, I need to intersect these, right? So that, yep, there we go. So I can start affecting those within this, but excluding that top line. So let's have these by word and then text data like. I'm getting pretty close here. Text is going to need its own situation, but
yep.
Let's call this a ramp and then crank that offset property and crank that over. And let's just line these up and see what happens when these both go. We're getting in the ballpark here. Okay, so now, you know what? I'm going to see if I can do this just within here. So let's call this range condense. And then I'm going to add one more range selector just because I want to challenge myself here. And let's see if we can get just text on here. So I'm looking for index, word, and I want just the second word here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if I'm thinking of this right. Yeah, sorry, getting into clicks. There we go. There we go. So if I set this to minus 100, I don't know if that's going to be quite enough, but if I set that to minus 100 on the amount, I can push that away and then have it lock back up with its friends. So we'll give that the same easing, and let's see if I got close. Alas, I'm going to create another position animator. Oh, you know what? Good tip time.
Here we go.
If you select a section of the text, I have the words text selected. I see it's a little hard to see right now. When you create an animator, it will have that already selected in your range selector. So, yeah, let's create something. So just the word text is now selected here. And I'll just animate the position property for this one. Set that from some position to 0. And then we'll, but this might be a good reason to not do that because now I can't ease that the same way. So let's set that to minus 200. And then I will change the amount property here. that reversed. Okay, so now I just would need to match that easing, which may be tricky since I'm doing this sort of on the fly, but
That's okay.
should be in the ballpark here.
I'm also making the graphics for our show on the fly. For example,
Yeah, perfect.
this is our good tip graphic. You can see.
Yeah, so we're not quite there, but honestly, this is in the ballpark. I think a lot of this is going to be really dialing in that easing and the I didn't spread these nearly as much, but I think this is the basis of the build here. How far do you want me to go? I don't know if this is still good TV or not.
No, I think we get the idea. I was struggling with the idea that like, well, I guess you could maybe ramp from one edge to the other. I feel like if this were like we're pushing them away from the middle line,
Yeah,
but text layers don't understand themselves spatially, right?
they don't.
Like that's the difficult thing. But then I think other like text engines might understand themselves spatially. For example,
Yeah.
I like all these great interstitial graphics ideas. Good tip, opine. I mean, get Tangent Town back on the switcher. We don't have enough call out graphics on this show.
I just started randomly changing things and it looks way worse now, but you know what? I'm leaving it there.
Well, because we do have access to like the wiggly selector, but that's going to push things in random directions, so that's not going to be great. But hey, we're like half an hour over time here,
Right.
so we just wrap it up. Hopefully, this was useful, and I hope people that learn maybe some more advanced things about text today, and about. I don't know. This is like your text animator 102 type courses, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like you can do the basic stuff and that'll get you like words fading up. But if you want to make things that are stylish and cool and modern, you do kind of need to dig into the guts a little further, which means you need to understand how they work.
Yeah, not enough emphasis on how stuff go. Really critical. I feel like there's a real modern assault on understanding systems. Anyway, let's not belabor that because it's the end of the day over here. So, and I better save my voice, Kyle. You and I need to talk at each other.
Well, here, I'll talk a little bit.
Okay, you do that.
All right. So he's Evan. I'm Kyle. You can find us at the places that we have our social handles here at the bottom. But I know I'm intentionally obfuscating. We are, of course, the Motion Design Hotline. If you have questions about all things After Effects, motion design, sometimes other apps, but we focus on After Effects, please let us know because we love to answer your questions and we love to help other people understand this stuff or understand text data like, to quote a thing that I just did. If you would like to send us a question, you can obviously get in touch with us on social, or you can go to the one and only website, real website for real people, motiondesignhotline.com. You can watch old episodes. You can get project files from a lot of these episodes. Maybe we'll put today's up. I don't know. They're a little bit messy.
It's part of the record, so
yeah. But you can also submit questions there, and we have a forum, so you could send in project files if you want.
Yeah.
Evan, what are we doing next week? I've stumped him, folks.
That's the painting episode, right?
It is. So on March 4th, next Monday, we will be back on Adobe Live, and we are going to be doing an episode all about sort of paint stroke style reveals and all the different ways that you can do those here in After Effects, because of course we don't get brushes like we have in Photoshop or Illustrator. So there's all kinds of different techniques you can use to get that working for you.
Yes, you'll want to brush up on these ways to take the pain out of painting, and more of that next week.
We'll work on some puns in the meantime.
Sure. At EC Abrams, at Kylosaurus Rex. Stay kind to each other, stay creative, and we'll see you all around the internet.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
Bye.